Hey guys, Jeff Stroud here with Hurricane Strouds. Hope you guys like this video. If you do, please like, subscribe, comment down below if you think there's anything I can help you with. This was about a 24-hour job, pretty intense, but we got it handled. I hope you guys like the video. Again, thanks. Alright guys, first thing we'll do is unhook the batteries. And I did watch Truckmaster's Y-bridge EGR delete videos before starting this. Very informational, and hopefully we can go ahead and get this thing knocked out. Alright, so far we unhooked both batteries using an 8mm ratchet wrench. My truck's got a 6-inch lift on it, so one thing you'll definitely want is a decent sized stool or something to get up here. We'll look over things and see all what we need to take off. Next thing we'll probably take off is the air cleaner boxes. Okay, next we're going to take off this resonator box. I think it's just this Phillips head screwdriver and this 30 star bit. So we'll go ahead and take those off real quick. Break some of these loose, but we'll break those loose and take those two out and go. All right, we got a resonator off, and all it was loosening that piece right there and a 30 point star bit or whatever it's called. But yeah, it came right out. All right, now we're going to take off this mass airflow sensor. It just looks like two Phillips head screws, and we'll take this sensor off. I did loosen this star bit, which is a 30, and this one here, that's a 30. All right, this truck's got 260-some thousand miles on it, and it's best to leave these two Phillips in, undo the clamp here to pull that sensor off, and then undo the Phillips head. And then to move this, there's also a star head here. All right guys, next what we did was pull this little intake tube. I'm not going to take this out because I don't think you have to, but we'll leave it in for now. I took and unplugged some of these sensors. Some of them were kind of brittle. It's a 06 LBZ. So, all right, next what you're going to want to do, your intake tube is here. Look right down past the intake, and this bolt here, you want to go ahead and take it off. All right, on the other side, there's a 10mm bolt under this intercooler. It's right down there by my end of my flathead. And what I ended up using, short 10mm universal and a little extension. All right, to take this pipe off here, there's like a heater hose clamp, like with the 2 ears that you got to push together. And basically, you can take some needle nose and come down the back side of this and push it together. And as you're pushing together, pull up on this piece and this whole setup will come out. Okay, to get that tube out from down there, I guess we are gonna have to unbolt these two clamps here. It's 11mm, and just to slide that boot off. All right, we got that boot and everything off, and we ended up pulling the pipe came right out after that. Next thing we did was jump over here, and we're gonna take out this 10mm bolt. All right guys, did that 10mm and then pulled the alternator plug, and I found it using this kind of pick. It's got a swivel just to reach in there to grab that clip there. Worked pretty great. All right, next up we took all these clips off, which is, I'm gonna get replacement clips because some of these broke, but there's one there, there's one down here. I want to say there's another one somewhere in this area. But you just take and basically twist them, and they're supposed to spread apart, and then you just take your wires out. Next, go to this piece here, and it's just got a clip on the back of it, and then you take this, looks like a 10mm screw off. All right, after you take that off, I just put the nut back on top and screw it on just in case I need it again. But all these wires now are loose and you can move them around pretty good. Next up, I think we're supposed to take off this hose clamp screw here, and that's so we can loosen this to get to bolts on here. Next up, we have this bolt here, bolt here, bolt here, bolt there, and there's probably a bolt, yeah, right here, and one here that I can see. So we'll get those broke loose and taken off now. All right, we got these bolts and these yard stuff taken out. Next, we're gonna take this little ring here. You just stick a flat head on this side. Well, actually, I guess sometimes you don't, but that ring just comes off. Yeah, after you take the ring off this boot, there is a clamp. It's down there, and you just take it off with a 7/16. I think Truckmaster said you could use 11mm, but a 7/16 works pretty decent. And this is the band for the clamp. And Truckmaster was correct. It is 11mm. 7/16 will not work. There also is a 12mm bolt right here. It's going towards the cab. Got to take that bolt off for everything to come off. Now I think we should just be able to pull this thing out. Okay, what I ended up doing was and then taking both my hands around this black piece and pushing down, and it finally separated. And now we just, I think now we can just pull this up. Okay, what I did was push this just about as far towards the cab as can be to get it to roll off the top, and picked up on this right here at the same time. That seems to be working. Like I said, this thing's got 260,000 miles on it, and that's just going right back through the motor. Next, we're supposed to remove the 2 bolts at the back of this tube, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray it with some PB Blaster. So far I got pretty lucky with the back one. What I did was take a breaker bar with a swivel and a small 12mm socket and kind of ran it through here and just broke it loose. And now I'm coming back with my 1/4" 12mm and just loosen them up. All right, guys, what I ended up having to do was put my extension, the swivel, and get it on the top bolt, and then extend my breaker bar behind this plate here, this metal plate, and just barely got it turned a little bit. And then I stuck my 1/4" drive 12mm on the bolt and finished breaking it loose and taking it off. All right, next up, I'm gonna take a pair of needle nose and get this clamp here off and pull this rubber hose off. And once you got the one at the firewall taken off, you can take off this one here. All right, the next one we're gonna undo is this one here. And I think this is the one that Truckmaster said you can cut, but I'm gonna try to get it off without cutting it first. All right, after trying countless ways to get that piece of hose off, I guess you don't need it anyway, so I'm gonna take this little saw here and just cut it. All right, guys, next up we got at least 4 9/16 bolts to take out. One's this one here, the other one's this one, and this one. So at least 3. All right, next there's 2 bolts. One is this bolt here, and the other one is this bolt here, which is holding this metal thing. It runs into that hose that we cut piece, and it's all connected on this support here. So I think I had to loosen that, then hopefully it'll come right out. The front bolt was the only one you had to loosen or take off. I took it all the way off, and basically what I did was picked up on that resonator, and it looks like there's a coolant line bolt. You don't have to take that off, but you kind of pick the the EGR cooler up to clear that bolt and slide it towards the passenger side of the vehicle, and that should give you plenty of room to get it undone from the back. Okay, what I ended up doing was pulling towards the front of the truck and upward, like on this area, and then taking a flathead screwdriver and going between, I think that's the up pipe, and the cooler, and kind of crowbarring it towards the front of the car, and that ended up breaking it loose to where it's got a lot more play room. Okay, once again, this is a 06 LBZ. It's got 260,000 miles on it, and that stuff's just caked in there. I hope this video does it justice, but they say that's why you're supposed to put these Y bridges on them and not delete them because of emissions, just delete them because of just gunk. All right, next up, we took the spout that goes into the turbo, and that's just loosening this clamp and kind of pulling it towards the front of the vehicle, and it comes off pretty easy. All right, next thing I did, there's gonna be a 10mm bolt here. You can go ahead and take that off. Truckmaster said he pulled the alternator and everything, but he said you didn't have to do it. So I'm gonna try it with the don't have to do it way. Next, I'm gonna take this bolt here off behind the alternator, get it loose, and maybe our lines will be a little bit more free. The next thing we'll do is take off this bolt going into the alternator, and then we'll take and try to pull this metal tube up, because we already had the bolt out from taking the EGR system out, and that's where we'll go. Okay guys, it was sitting in there something like that, and I was using my left hand and pulling up with my right hand. I took a flathead screwdriver and went under this piece with the bolt in it, or the tab, and kind of pried up on it as I was pulling up on it and wiggling it pretty good, and that seemed to get it out. All right guys, next what we'll do is we'll take off this bolt, which will be this bracket, this bolt here, which connects the metal part of the radiator hose to the thermostat housing. And we'll remove this bolt, and there's one on the back side, same pretty much location, just on the back side. And then we'll take this clamp off and get this metal upper radiator hose out of the way. All these bolts that we just talked about are 12mm. All right guys, to get this back bolt off, I think what you'll have to do is unhook the computer, which is just flipping these tabs over and over, and then just it pulls out. And then there's what I think is 30 the 30 bit torch bit or whatever. There's two of those. The other one's down here with that white mark on it. Okay, to take this wiring harness bracket off, there are 3 bolts. One of them is like here, the other one is a stud or nut over here, And then there's one kind of under where my socket would be. And you got to take it off so you can get to this nut, or this bolt here. Alright, so we got the metal radiator hose. I just kind of got it bent up. I didn't feel like messing with this clip here. And if I end up needing to take it off a room or something like that, I will. But I kind of just folded it up. And there's a bracket that continues to hold these cords right here. I feel like it's a 12mm. We'll take it out and go from there. Okay, the next thing you want to do is take this Y-bridge, take this Y-bridge piece off here. And the best thing I found is take a rubber mallet, hit it towards the thermostat, and then take a long flathead or something like that and hit it back towards the cab, and it pretty much came loose where I can pull it out. Okay, so what we got to do next is take these fuel lines off. This one's kind of dry rotted anyway, so I'm going to replace it. And this one here, it's got those aggravating alligator type clamps on them, or whatever they're called. But you got to take them off, take these fuel lines out of the way to be able to get this Y-bridge out. Alright, it looks like maybe whatever fuel line this is has got to come loose too. Yeah. Alright, to get that back bottom bolt, took a little headlamp, put up here so I could have a little bit of light. Take a long flathead screwdriver. Take a long flathead screwdriver. Wedge it in between the old Y-bridge and this fuel line, and you'll have to pry it like down towards the ground. An extension, a 3/8 drive extension, down to one of those swivel type extensions into a 10mm to get that back bolt out. My neighbor who just done this job on my neighbor said use one of these 1/4" ones because it was smaller and you could get back there easier, but it twisted up. Okay, to get the back bolt on this side, you have to pretty much go through there, and if you shine your light down there you can actually see it. And this is just 1/4" stuff with a 10mm deep socket, and you can get right on it and break it loose. Alright guys, on this Y-bridge, the front stuff, if you can't figure that out, then you probably don't need to do this job. It's just 10mm with extensions. These back two upper ones, I used a 10mm ratchet wrench, and on this side I had to use the box, or the open box part of the wrench. Okay, this top bolt has been about the most aggravating bolt on this whole job. What I ended up doing, which I think you can use about any kind of needle nose, once you get it broke loose, getting it broke loose is easy. You hold it like this right here and squeeze, and the little turns and it'll come out. Alright, I ended up having to take this fuel line off and twist that around, get it wiggled, and finally ended up pulling up on where the boost goes into it and one of these side pieces that kind of lifted up. And yeah, it came off. Pretty aggravating, but it came off. This is the inside of the original Y-bridge. It's got gunk all in it. It's pretty nasty, but that's why we're changing it out. All right guys, next up we're gonna replace this up pipe, and we got the LBZ, or LB7 up pipe. And first thing you gotta do is take off these 3 bolts, one here, and one right here. So we're taking off this heat shield, and what you want to do is get some gloves, and this will be down beside your turbo, and just grab here and just pull up high, My buddy Brandon came over and he said, be careful with this sensor here. That's a, what do you say, $200 turbo? Or
yeah,
sensor?
$200 sensor.
That sensor right there is $200, so be careful around it. On the back of this heat shield on the downpipe, there's a 10mm bolt that you have to take out. It's pretty simple to get to. I used a 1/4 inch drive, I don't know, short 10mm. All right, next you need to come down here, and there'll be another 10mm here. And then this is the passenger side of the vehicle. And then there's another one. You can reach it from down here, but I think it'll be easier to get it from the top. But there's 3 bolts holding that shield on. Just for reference, I'm literally laying on the truck. If you follow the backside of that heat shield down about halfway, there'll be a 10mm bolt to take out. So what I did with this heat shield is we loosened the transmission dipstick a little bit.
No, we just loosened it and popped it up and over the neck.
And then I came from up top and pulled the heat shield this way, and then pulled it up, bent it down, pulled it up, bent it down, and then I got to a point where I could slide it back over, and it just came right up. And my buddy down there bent that tab there while I was pulling. All right, back underneath the passenger side wheel well, there's a 14mm clamp bolt right there that the ratchet's on. We're gonna take that off. We're gonna take that band clamp off, and then we're gonna go up top and take the band clamp off the turbo up there. All right, the next clamp we pulled off was this one here. The stud fork's up under it, and I used a 12mm to loosen it. Okay, we took the band clamp off here all the way. We took the band clamp off at the turbo. We sprayed the joint at the turbo with PB Blaster, and now we should just be able to pull on this, give it a good wiggle, and hopefully it'll come out. All right, I got my buddy Brandon helping me, and we just got this up pipe broken loose. And he said there's a special way you got to take this out.
Comes down, rotate it, and it just pops right out like that.
All right, we took off this pipe here. There's 3 bolts here, and then up there where it's separated, there's 3 bolts. Those are kind of aggravating to get to. If there's any way you can spray PB Blaster on it, it really helps, because as you can see, I broke one of them off there. I'm gonna try to work that back and forth to see if I can get it to come out with some vice grips and some PB Blaster now that I got room to get to it. But I used a cheater pipe, broke them all loose, and then just used this kind of setup. I think on some of them I had to take the extension off or get just a little bit longer extension, but they came off pretty easy, like I said, minus that one, and those up there are aggravating to get to, but they come off pretty easy. This is the up pipe. I got it from Rudy's, I think, or Ruby's, out of North Carolina. I'm ENC. Yeah, I think it was like $100 or something like that. And my neighbor, he had his cut and welded, and I think it was like right at $100 to do that also. So, all right, guys, we got the up pipe from the LB7 installed. Now we'll put up the downpipe. We wiggled our downpipe through that little hole. It's kind of tight. I actually had to call my neighbor to come over here and hook it back up for me, or put it in the hole. And yeah, so moving right along. All right, guys, we got the downpipe flange hooked up, and then I went ahead, and this is the HSP Y-bridge, and it fits in there, and it looks like you're gonna have tons of room to get to those 2 bolts down there. All right, guys, I know I didn't show a lot on this putting it back together video, but it got late and I wanted to get it started. It was Sunday. But what I ended up doing was taking and putting this lower piece of the pipe in first and then wedging this in. And I just pulled this black piece down, stuck it in the boot, but everything's tight. I mean, that's the air cleaner box is right up, or the air cleaner tube's right up against this Y-bridge tube. I didn't put the second boot they gave me on the bottom, and that's what I'm gonna do today, and change the oil and fill the fluids back up to where they need to be and check for leaks. But that is a HSP Y-bridge install. This is the setup I have here. I went ahead and tightened the bolts that go to, or the clamps that go to this Y-pipe. And now I'm gonna try to install it. And I'm gonna take a marker and mark on the Y-bridge to make sure this goes down far enough, because on my test drive this blew off and I didn't have this piece on. I had the stock piece and I've swapped them out now, so I'm gonna mark it just to make sure it's up there. And when I mean by marking it, I just put a mark on the Y-bridge, so that way I know if the hose clamp goes that far, then it's far enough. All right, guys, best thing I can figure out is have your bolts for your boot facing this way, because if you pretty much face them anyway else, it'll either hit the alternator or the air arm sleeve thing. And then your other ones, they're pretty much in kind of like the factory position, which I found it a lot easier when you got this side off. You can just get to them right here, and they're facing towards the block, towards this heater or antifreeze hose. So that's about a wrap. We're gonna take it on a test drive, and I've got that mark that I made down here. I've got it well covered. You can't really see it in the video, but that mark that I made on that Y-bridge is well covered up. These pretty good and tight, and this sensor's plugged back up and mass airflow is plugged up. So that's a wrap.